Before you start commenting, I am very much behind. It is 6:32 Eastern here on Monday, December 30th. Tonight's live stream is brought to you by my friends at Preston Automotive Group. I blame a couple things. One, John Harbaugh's late press conference, which is typically 2:30 or 3:30 on Mondays. It was 5 o'clock tonight. And then, of course, the reality of being home. I've been working out of my mom's basement since the day after Christmas, and my father decided to barge in along with my brother in the middle of my prep work. So those are my two excuses for being a little bit behind, but nonetheless, we are here tonight and there's lots to discuss. Of course, week 18 of this NFL regular season commences tomorrow, and for the Ravens, obviously, it's pretty standard cooking here. You beat the Browns, which you are heavily favored to do, and you win the AFC North crown for a second consecutive season, and you lock up the 3 seed, which means you will host the 6 seed, likely to be the Chargers. Still percentages out there that favor a potential matchup with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's what this week presents. And of course, everybody continues to chat about the hot button item. Yes, it's Saquon Barkley and whether or not he'll have a chance to pass Eric Dickerson's all-time rushing record for running backs in a single season. He's got a chance to do that coming up next weekend against his former team. All he needs is 101 more yards to do so. So that's obviously a hot button item, but nothing more so than Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen. And as we just discussed earlier today on our Ravens lunch hour live stream, and as I will reiterate right now, Lamar is ahead of Josh comfortably in all but 2 categories: rushing touchdowns and win-loss record. Now, just a seed potentially could separate these two. Buffalo has the 2 seed locked up, and as I just mentioned, the Ravens have a clear path to locking up the 3 seed. Lamar comfortably out in front in pass yards with 3,955. Josh has 3,731. Lamar, a historic season, obviously, with those passing yards, given what he's done on the ground, 852 rushing yards, and that's with Derrick Henry in year 1 in Baltimore. Not telling you guys something that you don't already know. I continue to think that that's just remarkable. Josh has 531 rushing yards, 43 total touchdowns for Lamar to Josh's 41. Just 4 picks for Lamar, which is a career best. And Josh, this is definitely an area that he has cleaned up. 6 interceptions after throwing 18 of them last year. And you look, if you're just thinking about, okay, well, those are some of the big metrics. Where else? Well, here you have it. Completion percentage, passing yards per attempt, passing yards per game, passing touchdowns, interceptions, passer rating, rushing attempts, rushing yards per attempt, so on and so forth, right? Aside from rushing touchdowns and win-loss record, Lamar is ahead of Josh in every single statistical category. Notably, of course, the Bills are 13-3, just put a thumping on the New York Jets yesterday. And I just saw a tweet right before I came on that Josh is expected to start in Buffalo's regular season finale against New England, but it's simply to protect his consecutive games played or consecutive games started streak. And honestly, I kind of respect that, and I do have a graphic about it. He's only going to play a series, maybe. I don't know how much he's going to play at all. But here it is, Sean McDermott commenting just earlier today that his consecutive start streak is important to him, so he will play versus the Patriots for a short time and then come off the field. Well, all power to him. Point being, Lamar's going to have an opportunity to really leave a lasting impression, a final argument, if you will, in the regular season finale against the Cleveland Browns, a team that beat the Ravens in the first go-around. We all remember that. Doug Clawson noting that, again, while so much of this has become divisive, this conversation, I don't mean to be divisive in any way. I think both players are fantastic people and human beings, and obviously are putting forth historic seasons at the quarterback position. Just 2 in NFL history have had over 3,500 passing yards and over 500 rushing yards and under 10 turnovers through 16 games, and these 2 are doing it this season. That's the list. And those statistics were tallied up by Doug Clawson. I mean, this is legendary stuff, and they are both having, make no mistake, historic seasons, dominant seasons. Here's the PFF grades overall through 17 weeks. Lamar leads the way. Joe Burrow is second. Josh Allen is third. Justin Herbert and Jaden Daniels round out the top five. Washington's in the postseason. What a win last night. What a season for the Commanders. And I think you can pretty much write it in ink that Jaden Daniels will be your offensive rookie of the year. I thought Bo Nix was going to give him some competition, and he certainly did throughout the season. But to me, this is a shoo-in. It's Jaden Daniels. But the reason why I pulled this graphic up is because Lamar, it doesn't matter what kind of metric system you're looking at, what statistical categories you want to hone in on. Lamar's season is elite. It's elite of elite. PFF tracked a couple different things here. He's on track to have the NFL's third season with 30-plus passing touchdowns and a pick percentage below 1%. The last two, Aaron Rodgers in 2021, Tom Brady in 2010, went on to win the MVP. Again, there is so many pieces of evidence that favor what Lamar's doing. Maybe none greater than one that Sarah and I discussed earlier today. And that is just how battle-tested Lamar's team is. This was a group that came out to a murderer's row kind of schedule right out of the gate, seeing Kansas City, a rematch of the AFC Championship game on opening night, seeing the Bills on Sunday Night Football, seeing the Dallas Cowboys, even though I know they're teetering on whether or not they're going to make the postseason, and there's been a lot of dysfunction there. But there is a lot of talent, and Dak Prescott had not gone down due to injury at that point in the season. Of course, you see Cincinnati early on. This was a difficult stretch for the Ravens, and the fact that they have climbed out of being 0-2, played 3 games in 11 days with a 3-0 record, and have withstood the strength and the difficulty of this year's schedule, I think is notable. And look at the statistics here that Sarah circled that we used earlier today. Strength of schedule, they have a winning percentage of .545. Of course, that's over a 500 winning percentage in terms of strength of schedule. That is the greatest league-wide. And this is, again, this is the AFC. Okay, we're looking at the AFC conference right now. The Ravens under strength of schedule, you see their winning percentage. The next closest, I believe, is the Los Angeles Chargers, who could very well come to Baltimore, by the way, for Wild Card Weekend and a rematch. Now, SOV is strength of victory. The Ravens also lead the way in that department. So, and much more so, by the way, than Buffalo, who, of course, has the quarterback that's the direct front runner in terms of betting odds, sportsbooks-wise, for NFL MVP. And Kansas City is even south of Lamar and the Ravens in those two categories. If you are looking for a statistical metric, right, for a category that not a lot of folks are talking about, this right here, you should hang your hat on. This, to me, is the epitome of being battle-tested. That's what the Ravens are. That will serve them well for the first time, right, for the first time ever, not ever, but Lamar's going to have a chance, unlike his 2019 and 2023 campaigns, right, where they essentially had 2 weeks of rest because of the regular season finale and then the bye week. This team is going to come in hot. This team is going to come in with momentum, having played playoff football for a while now, not desperate football the way that, of course, the Cincinnati Bengals have for what feels like months now. But these metrics right here, to me, speak to not only are a testament to what Lamar's done this year, but where the Ravens stand entering the postseason. And one other thing as well. Dan Orlovsky on ESPN earlier today pointed to a few things statistically when it comes to what Lamar has in front of him. And because his playmakers are creating more separation than anyone in the league, and of course, he's got 2 top 10 separators in the league, in Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. He used that as a way of actually taking away from Lamar's candidacy when it comes to guys like Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, which I found to be ludicrous. And I think Mina Kimes, safe to say, she wasn't on the show, but safe to say, she might feel the same. She quote tweeted a guy named Sam, so what's his last name? Schwartzstein? And Sam's talking about separation from a performance stat standpoint. He says, separation is not the performance stat people think it is. And let me pull up this actual tweet so that I can read it to you in full. He wrote, separation is not the performance stat people think it is. Quarterback chooses who to throw to. Zone coverage creates more, quote, open windows, and checkdowns have more space. Not saying it's not a good stat, but there are differences between process stats and performance stats. Okay? Mina writes, separation stats are noisy, quote, for the reasons Sam mentions, but something that caught my eye while I was pulling some numbers this morning, Lamar has a passer rating of 87 on tight window throws this year, which is first in the NFL by a huge margin. His EPA per dropback is 0.25, more than twice the next quarterback. She goes on to write the following. This isn't to say he's better than Burrow and Allen on those. Volume and discretion matters, but the idea that he's profiting solely off of wide open guys is also wrong. And I think a lot of that, when you looked at the graphic that Dan put up earlier on Get Up, it was up against Burrow and Allen, and volume comes into play. Of course, Lamar's average is going to be better because he throws and passes so less often, right? Because of the balance that the Ravens offense has with Todd Monken and with Derrick Henry, with all the pieces they have around him, he has a lot less passing attempts than Josh and Joe for obvious reasons, especially given what he can do as a dual threat quarterback. I'm not saying that Josh isn't a dual threat quarterback. Of course he is. But I didn't quite ride with Dan's separation statistical argument when it comes to pointing the finger at certain Ravens wide receivers. And I tell you what, with that logic, that's the ultimate compliment for the Ravens wide receivers. You're telling me that Dan is suggesting you'll take 1 and 2 wide receiver 1 and 2 in Baltimore, meaning Zay and Rashad, over Jamar and T in Cincy? I don't think so. I appreciate you guys for being here. Over 500 of you concurrently watching. Everybody wants a piece of the pie when it comes to the Lamar versus Josh MVP race. John Harbaugh weighed in earlier today, courtesy of Ravens Productions, and talked about a number of things, including right off the top here, when a reporter asked about the sustainability element that has long followed Lamar. Well, here he is in year 7, having the best statistical season of his career. And Harbs is like, I want nothing to do with that sustainability question. Miss me with that bullshit.
It's just I don't even know why I have to answer that, because I was never proposing that theory, So I think the people that were proposing that theory should have to answer it. But he's what we always thought. He's a smart player, and he knows how to take care of himself. And he always said that. He always said, I know how to take care of myself. I know how to protect myself. And not that he hasn't been injured here and there, like every player, but he's the ultimate competitor. I think he's playing his best football, like you said. He's playing the position at the highest level. Every aspect of the position continues to take to another level, take his game to a higher level, and hopefully that continues. I mean, I know it will. I'm counting on it getting even better.
Kind of back to Lamar, early in the season, a lot was made of you saying you thought Lamar was the best player in football at the time. And we look at his development over the years, a lot of people are saying that this is the best he's played. When you go back to him at his rookie year, I'm sure you were always on his side, but did you think that we'd be here, year 8, whatever year this is, and we're still talking about, him continuously ascending?
Well, yeah, I did. I mean, that was the idea. You hope so. I mean, you don't know for sure. I mean, nobody knows the future. But that was the idea when we drafted him, and that was the idea when we played him in the first year. And it's been the idea ever since. So I'd say we're on schedule. But we have a lot to accomplish, with all that. All that's part of it. All that's the history, right? And that'll all be, people that study football history in the National Football League, I'm sure will have these conversations and write about these things and all that. But right now, it's just a matter of kind of trying to make that history, trying to do what we can do to do what we do and try to win the next game and carry it forward from there.
Is he the MVP in your mind? this season?
Hey, he's my MVP. He'll always be my MVP. I promise you that. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, he's our MVP. He's our guy. But you know what? That's really not what we're thinking about. I mean, I haven't heard anybody talk about that. I haven't heard Lamar talk about it. And we're just trying to win the next game.
John Harbaugh earlier today at his 5 o'clock press conference at One Winning Drive. Clearly, bigger fish to fry. That's been the topic. That's been the message. But we all know a third MVP would put him in rare air, right? Uncharted territory. And John Harbaugh isn't the only one who's riding with his guy when it comes to MVP candidacy. Former NFL quarterback Kurt Bankert gave out his end of season quarterback rankings, and Kurt is always heavily in the film, looking at all 22, breaking things down on a weekly basis. He too has Lamar Jackson as the number one ranked quarterback, suggesting that if he were to have an MVP vote, it would go to Lamar. Top 5 is Lamar, Josh, Joe, Jaden, and how about Sam Darnold, man? I don't know if he's going to be franchise tagged. I don't know if they're just going to straight up extend him. But as far as I'm concerned, why not take the Jordan Love approach? You've got J.J. McCarthy under a rookie contract. He will be under team control for the next several years. Sam has resurrected himself. He's got the pieces around him to set him up for success. Why not give him an opportunity to take over the reins of this team, see how far you go with him while grooming JJ? You don't even know if he's going to be ready, by the way, by week 1. Anyway, that's a tangent. But Kurt Bankert is riding with Lamar. Torrey Smith, add him to the group. He tweeted out the following earlier today. Everyone is overthinking the MVP conversation. If you go to a youth sports tournament, you will see stars, and then you will see the MVP. The NFL is no different. Watch the film. Plenty of great years, but none above Lamar Jackson. And looky here. Look what took place on her birthday. I don't know how many times it's been now, but Sarah is a recurring guest on the Kay Adams Show. It's always a pleasure to watch these two budding friends get together virtually to talk football. And I loved Sarah's segment, and you already know she went to bat for Lamar. She came in hot on her birthday and had this to say about Lamar's MVP candidacy with Kay.
And you had a very popular tweet a couple of weeks ago. I think we have it. And you laid out why the MVP race was still on weeks ago when it was Josh's year, and it might even be Josh's year. But more and more people are on your side now, Sarah, saying Lamar is the MVP. He's the MVP frontrunner. What is the most convincing factor if you were to break it down at a bar? People, no, Josh is MVP. What would you say about Lamar taking it over?
Yeah, well, I've been having these so most people say Lamar's having the best season, or they'll say he's tied with Josh Allen. The reason why Lamar's having the best season, in addition to having those stats, he's also having a transformative season, Kay. So you're talking about a guy who is known for running the football from the quarterback position. But right now, he has the best passer rating in the NFL and the second best passer rating in NFL history. And if against the Browns, he puts up a 138.6, he will then become the number one single season passer rating quarterback in NFL history. And he'll be doing that while he is only a little over 100 yards away from 1,000 yards rushing. And he's only 45 passing yards away from 4,000 passing. So we're talking about not just a great statistical season, we're talking about a transformative one. We've never seen a quarterback have 4,000 passing yards and 800 rushing yards. He has a chance to hit 1,000 rushing yards. So I think that's the best case for him. I could also explain a lot of reasons. A lot of people try to knock him, and I could refute each one of those if you would like.
Oh, look at these two go. I love it that they keep calling. Kay is an awesome advocate of the show, supporter of the show. Sarah's been on with her many times, and you already know she brought the heat on her birthday, no less. Of course, Tony Romo expanded on some comments that we addressed last night. Remember, he's had this to say in game last night. He was broadcasting with Jim Nantz Bills Jets and had this to say about the MVP race.
If you're going to win an MVP on one extra touchdown pass or something, I don't think that's
I know
right.
you don't have a vote, but you know how voters are influenced. It always gets down
tied.
to these numbers.
I think they're tied in my brain. I think that Josh Allen might get the edge only because Lamar's had 2. If Josh had 2, you're going to side with a guy who doesn't have one. That's just human nature, in my opinion.
They've set a franchise.
And we all remember MVP voter Emmanuel Acho did not like that tied comment there. He said saying the MVP race is tied is a cop-out. You can't mark tied on the MVP ballot. Anyone saying this is pandering. 2, voters cannot hold Lamar's previous wins against him. It should not matter at all that Lamar has won previously. Now, in fairness, that's what Romo said in game. This is what he said post-game also on CBS.
It's really close. I mean, honestly, it's a coin flip in a lot of ways. I only give the edge to Josh because of the team record. And right now, it's like, that's the difference. If everything's so close, they're both such a huge part, of the team winning. And I feel like Josh has probably had to do a little bit more. And that's saying, that's like by that much, just because Lamar is just so special. But, having Derrick Henry does help the process a little bit.
I will offer that. I will also offer James Cook, who finds the end zone, again, I believe 15 times this season. Yardage, obviously, a factor there and an advantage to Derrick Henry. The closing argument will go to Lamar Jackson likely. Josh Allen, locked into the 2 seed, probably won't see him until playoff football. Could that sway things in your mind at all?
It could. If Lamar lights it up and has another Christmas-type game, that could sway it because it's the last thing you see. So, weirdly, the MVP might come down to a game in the regular season like that. So, we'll see how it plays out next week, but it'll be fun to watch.
I'm where I'm at here. I said it on the lunch hour live stream. I'll say it again. Which one is it, Tony? Is it tied because of the pity side of things, because Josh hasn't won one and Lamar's won 2? Or is it tied in your mind, or is it in favor of Josh because of the win-loss record differences and Josh having 2 more wins in the left-hand side of the column than Lamar does through 17 weeks? Which one is it? I know sometimes in game you can be in a certain mental capacity or a mental state where you have 1,500 different things and you're not thinking through what you're saying, but that was clearly different post-game than what he had to say in game, which of course brought a lot of different reaction online when it comes to MVP, when it comes to voter fatigue. And that's exactly what Nate Burleson had to say on CBS yesterday.
I'm going with Lamar Jackson right now. And let me be very clear. I have been waffling back and forth. I feel like we are in a position where, as fans, this is what we want. We want it to come down to the last couple of weeks of the season. But Lamar Jackson, this season, he has effortlessly dominated defenses. He has made it look so easy. There is a fluidity in his game that I have not seen from him and any other quarterback in the NFL. I just feel like when it comes to what he's doing statistically, the head-to-head matchup and where we are in the season, him finishing strong, you cannot take this away from Lamar. And I do feel like there is some Lamar Jackson MVP fatigue. He's got it twice. Yeah. Does he need another one? Well, if he deserves it, then yeah, I believe he should get it.
Nate Burleson. What about Mike Vick? Terry Bradshaw, Howie Long all chimed in on the conversation yesterday as well.
Is it his to lose? I mean, he broke your rushing record all time already.
Yeah, I think it is Lamar Jackson's MVP to lose because, ever since their bye week and since they came back, they look like a totally different team. And, not to say that Lamar had any setbacks, but the way he's just approached the game over the last couple of weeks, he's just been doing some phenomenal things. Like you say, broke my record last week. I thought that was an amazing feat for him. All records are made to be broken. I won't say that it didn't sting a little bit, but he deserved it. He deserved it. He worked hard for it and got to credit the coaches that's been around him, for putting him in that position.
Yep. You know what? When you look at Lamar, and I agree, I think Lamar should win it. He's just played outstanding. He's one of those guys that when he plays and you're watching him on television and they say they're behind a little bit, they're not going to be. You just know that he is going to bring his team back to victory. Accurate with, I never thought he would be this good a passer, to be honest with you. Outstanding passer, great poise, knows when to run. And that rushing record, he can have that. That's all right. Super Bowls is what he needs now, and I think he'll win another MVP and possibly get on to the Super Bowl.
But Howie, Josh Allen's still the betting favorite.
Yeah, still the betting favorite, but I think, recency bias, and I think it's kind of Lamar's taking it back over. There's 2 weeks left for Josh in Buffalo. I think if there's anything that gives Josh a good chance, maybe fatigue of giving it to Lamar. Lamar won it unanimous one year. He got every vote but one the other MVP year. Josh has certainly done a lot, and so has Saquon.
Tell you what, if it ends up going to Josh and it indeed is an MVP kind of award, or a voter fatigue has a direct effect on this year's candidacy, not only does that water down the award, but it actually takes away from the integrity, from the lure of the award, right? Because while we can always, of course, pick through and dissect and look at certain statistics from a vantage point that allows you at times to skew things in certain directions, I'm hard pressed to find ways why this shouldn't be in Lamar's favor. And I think you can look at this from so many different angles. You can look at it from the bulk of statistics that matter. You can look at it from a strength of schedule standpoint. You can now look at it from a seeding perspective. Buffalo is the 2 seed. They are locked into the 2 seed. The Ravens will likely be the 3 seed. That's not that big of a difference. Lamar's going to get the final argument here against Cleveland, right? Lamar is doing it both through the air and on the ground. And so I think on top of that, if you think about the betrayal index statistic that Sarah has been bringing up in recent weeks, think about Justin Tucker's all-time struggles. Think about the defense through 10 weeks, right? Everybody wants to talk about Josh's lack of a supporting cast. Well, guess what? Lamar's supporting cast wasn't supporting anything through the first half plus of this season. That's got to be a part of the equation as well. Dan Orlovsky, I mentioned earlier on, apologized. Here's what that sounded like earlier today.
Conversation has gotten so ridiculous with a lot of stuff. I was the big dumb idiot that went on TV 3 weeks ago and said it was over. I got caught in the moment. It was premature. It wasn't over, obviously. My bad. I owe America an apology in regards to that. Let's have a good conversation about the MVP, okay? Number one, and I said this weeks ago, MVP is different than Offensive Player of the Year. Okay, Offensive Player of the Year goes to the person who, in your opinion, has had the most outstanding performance. MVP is about contribution over benefit. Who's made the most outstanding contribution? Who has elevated the performance of everybody else around them, okay? Here's my pushback to the statistical argument. Shannon, I do have an MVP vote. Last year, I voted for Lamar Jackson. He did not statistically have the same season as other quarterbacks. Last year, Josh Allen statistically had a better season than Lamar Jackson.
Which is true only in some categories. Okay, Sarah and I discussed that at length earlier today. But the difference, and a key difference, of course, last year was what Lamar did team-wise, where his team was due to his efforts. And that was the top overall seed with the first-round bye. And, of course, top in the conference, home field advantage, which came back to bite him, of course, in the championship game. But that was the key difference.
I voted for Lamar because I thought he was doing more with less. I just watched the games and said, what he's thing around him, that is the value of everything. You can't say statistically that is the number one line of demarcation because one, then Joe Burrow would be the quarterback to get it, or two, Saquon Barkley would be the player to get it.
We'll get back to that in just a second. Here are the statistics that I was referencing from last year. Okay, this is Lamar versus Josh last year. And again, I don't even know why this is part of the conversation because Josh placed fifth. He was fifth last year in MVP voting. He wasn't runner-up to Lamar. He was fifth, and here's why. The number is circled. 18 interceptions to Lamar's 7. Now, that's an area that Josh has obviously cleaned up. Just 6 this year he will finish with, assuming that he doesn't play more than a series or even attempt a pass maybe coming up next week against the New England Patriots. But as you see, right, the green is where Josh had Lamar beat last year. So we're talking about games played. We're talking about passing yards. We're talking about passing yards per game, passing touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, and whatever fan point means. I don't even know what that means. Is it fantasy? Fantasy points? Who cares? Okay, so did he have the better statistical season? Well, in some categories, but certainly not all. And Lamar, matter of fact, as you can see all the greens that are circled or highlighted on his side of the column, that's where he had Josh beat. Win-loss record, completion percentage, passing yards per attempt. He had fewer picks, passer rating, rushing attempts, rushing yards per attempt, so on and so forth. So to just make a blanket statement that Josh was the better statistical quarterback last year, that's not true. Back to Dan.
So it has to be how you weigh the value of the performance. What are you doing with what are you given? And I think and I don't want to reveal my vote because I can't, I would lean Josh Allen as the front runner because I would make the argument that I think Josh is doing as equally, if not more, than Lamar with a lesser supporting cast. Statistics, again, these numbers are all which Lamar's guys get open more than Josh's guys, very plainly. Lamar's guys technically get open the most in the NFL. Josh's get open like 7th least. So that has to factor into what you are watching and how that person is acquiring all those stats to go along with their name. I would lean Josh.
Okay, well, look, what also has to be a factor in that, as I referenced earlier on, is how much you are attempting passes within the confines of your offense. Clearly, Josh passes it a lot more than Lamar does. And okay, is Josh's supporting cast secondary to Lamar's? Yes, I think we can all agree, even after the acquisition of Amari Cooper at the deadline last month. But even if that's the case, look at what the Ravens and Lamar Jackson have done. Just to go back to this statistics slide from earlier in terms of strength of schedule, it is not even close to what Buffalo has done. The Ravens played a first-place schedule, and not only did they play a first-place schedule, but this was a schedule that was grueling, including 3 games in 11 days, including the onslaught right off the top of the season with Kansas City and Dallas and Buffalo and Cincinnati and so on and so forth. And I see some of you commenting on when it comes to this whole separation topic, right? That component that Dan continues to push. Well, obviously, these receivers are going to be able to separate when Lamar continues to do what he does at a historic level, and that is give his guys a chance. Nobody extends plays more so than Lamar Jackson. And it is absolutely, positively electric watching him do exactly that. So that's another good part of the puzzle as well that has to be talked about when you're going to use separators and wide receivers as a component of an argument against Lamar's candidacy when it comes to comparing him to Josh Allen's candidacy. So good stuff. I appreciate you guys for being with me here tonight. Over 660 of you joining me concurrently across all platforms. Please like the video on your way in. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when I'm dropping my daily live content here inside the channel. Tonight is brought to you by my friends at Preston Automotive Group. And at Preston, Bobby Baltimore subscribers receive 2 exclusive offers. $500 towards a new or pre-owned vehicle, or when you buy 4 tires, you'll receive 50% off your alignment. You've got over 2,000 vehicles to shop from. If you go to the link that I have included in the show notes, it's also a pinned comment right now in the live chat. It'll bring you directly to my landing page where it will remind you about those offers that are available to you. As I just explained, you can contact them easily by filling out this form right here. They do have a DM site operator that you can hit up. And then, of course, searching by make, model, or keyword, all the available inventory. Right now, you got 4,661 vehicles to take a look at. You can break it down by price, vehicle condition, year, make, location. You know, I've been rocking the Bobby Baltimore Bronco for quite some time now. This time of year is my favorite because not only is it spacious for trips up north during the holidays, but you can start that thing before you get in it, warm it up in the morning. It's got seat warmers. It's got a steering wheel warmer. It's got everything you could possibly want for winter driving. And I just wanted to continue to thank Preston for their support and their belief in what I'm building. I'm a brand ambassador for them. Kyle Hamilton and Mark Andrews are as well. So you'd be joining the Preston team along with those guys and many more throughout Baltimore and beyond. You can get started today by visiting PrestonMotor.com or just simply scan the QR code in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Continued thanks and lots of gratitude for Preston Automotive Group. They will have a presence at this coming weekend's Be More Around Town tailgate, where I will be live in the 2 o'clock hour. It's a 4:30 kickoff, of course, in Baltimore. Regular season finale, Browns, Ravens, and I look forward to having a listener of mine, a subscriber of mine by the name of Andrew, who followed me on Instagram, entered into my ticket giveaway contest with Preston, and now he and a +1 will not only be going to the game as a result, but they're going to be coming to the Be More Around Town tailgate as well. So looking forward to that. And of course, looking forward to future giveaways along with this coming Wednesday on the Vault side of things, our latest homage t-shirt giveaway as well. Well, Diontae Johnson, as we all know, is a Houston Texan now. They picked him up after he cleared waivers. Actually, I'm sorry, he did not clear waivers, right? Diontae Johnson is a Houston Texan. And this is interesting to me. Of course, everybody's been following this very closely. And I will say, let's just do this really quickly. Because, let's see. One thing on my end here. There's a super chat. So Quan writes, I want intel on how MVP voters look at tush pushes. Oh, because a lot of Josh's, I think I know what you're referring to. Josh is, of course, sorry, I got something stuck in my throat. The only statistical category aside from win-loss record, I think what Quan is referring to here is rushing touchdowns when you look at Lamar versus Josh. So how will MVP voters look at that? Well, what you need to look at is that James Cook is having an extremely effective season for them at the running back position. He's also a pass catcher. And so those that want to take use Derrick Henry as a way of pushing against Lamar's candidacy, you have to do the same for James Cook. I'm not comparing the two players. Derrick is obviously in a league of his own. But James has 15 rushing touchdowns this year. He's got a couple touchdowns through the air, over 200 receiving yards. He is a dual threat kind of guy, both as a running back and as a pass catcher. So that needs to be factored in to the equation as well. I appreciate the super chat, Quan. Let's reset things and try and do this once more. So Diontae Johnson is a Houston Texan now. And of course, he did not clear waivers. Houston took an opportunity at him, and it's the fourth team in the last calendar year that he's been a part of after the Ravens waived him. Of course, they brought him in prior to the trade deadline from Carolina, where he just spent a few months. And prior to that, it didn't exactly end on great terms in Pittsburgh, as we've all watched. And then, of course, what took place in Baltimore after the deadline. Oh, I don't know, maybe just a massive game against the then top team, arguably in the entire league, and maybe still are, in the Philadelphia Eagles on December 1st. And when his number was called, he refused to go in. What kind of message does that send to your peers? What kind of message does that send to other NFL teams? And there is nobody that I've seen in recent history that left more on the table in Baltimore than Diontae Johnson did. Not only the opportunity to play and prove himself to maybe another team, whether it be in Baltimore or elsewhere, that he's worthy of another contract, but a playoff run. What team would you rather be a part of right now? The Houston Texans or the Baltimore Ravens? Houston, of course, just lost Tank Dell. CJ Stroud is in the middle of a sophomore slump, putting the finishing touches on that season. Their offensive line has a lot to do with his struggles. What team would you rather play right now? One of the hottest teams in the league, not named the Kansas City Chiefs, or the Houston Texans, who likely will be bowing out, you would think, on opening weekend, wild card weekend. Now, look, Diontae apparently, this was video caught of suspended X21 here, who looks to be in the bleachers. This was on Christmas Day in Houston. And Diontae in good spirits with Isaiah Likely, Derrick Henry, some other teammates. Lamar comes in here at the tail end, I believe. These guys are all dapping each other up as if to say there were no locker room relationships fractured, at least not with the Florida boys. I know Diontae has roots down there in the South Florida area, if I'm not mistaken. Look at him. He and King are all fired up. Those are two veterans. So I'm not saying that there were any relationships fractured in the locker room, but certainly you're led to believe that from a coaching standpoint, from an organizational standpoint, you can't, I can't even begin to imagine what those conversations were like, especially after he refused to enter into the game. Well, here he is, his first comments as a Houston Texan. And according to, let's see, who did I get this from? This was Aaron Wilson. Here's what he had to say when asked about it.
Did or didn't happen with the Ravens, and what kind of led you to this path to being here?
You know, I was going, like I said, I don't want to leave that in the past. Fresh start here, so like I said, I had a good time there. You know, I got some good teammates over there. You know what I'm saying, got to know whatever. Those relationships still gonna be there. And like I said, I'm gonna move forward here. I'm trying to win games and go far in the playoffs.
Your short time here, besides CJ, some of the other guys you've been around, and just the culture in general. What have you learned already about the culture?
Team first. Everybody's about the team. I'm about the team too. So I'm doing whatever the coaches ask me to do. For special teams, free play a couple plays here and there, or just contribute in some sort of way. That's all I'm really worried about.
I'm about the team too, huh, Diontae? You sure about that? Here's what you just heard. Aaron Wilson asks, what do you feel like, or I don't know if it was Aaron or not, but that was courtesy of Aaron Wilson down there in Houston. A reporter asked Diontae in that scrum, what do you feel like did or didn't happen with the Ravens? Diontae said, I want to leave that in the past. Fresh start here. I had a good time there. Got some good teammates over there. Those relationships still going to be there. Another reporter follows up. Well, what have you learned already about the culture here? What has he been there for a week? Literally, I feel like a week ago, this information came down. And Diontae goes, he's got the nerve, right? The audacity to say, team first. Everybody's about the team. I'm about the team too. Well, Diontae, I'm not sure if you suffer from short-term memory loss, but it was about 30 days ago that you refused to enter the game in a big-time marquee matchup with the Philadelphia Eagles for your opportunity to not only try and help the team win that game when they were down, but also try to reestablish yourself as a veteran in this league who is a man beater, right? He can beat man coverage. He can give you yak yards. He's a reliable route runner. He is someone who's put up numbers in this league, and he's played a lot of football. Instead, he flaked out. He refused to enter the game, suspended as a result, taken away from team activities the week that followed, ultimately waived, and ends up in Houston. Fourth team in a calendar year. And I know, I just showed you the clip. We all saw it. He looks to be cool with his teammates. But I can't imagine, especially after listening to all of the in-locker room reaction after Devondre Campbell did something similar earlier this month in San Francisco. I can't imagine that there isn't more of those sentiments flying through the locker room. We just didn't hear or see anything about that because the Ravens are too buttoned up as an organization. This, to me, was a laughable response. Very tone deaf, kind of clueless. I'm about the team too? Really? Your track record doesn't necessarily back that up, Diontae. He's going to have a shot. Looks like Houston's giving him a shot. And he's going to have a chance to play some postseason football. You weren't getting that in Carolina. But certainly if you look at the two situations and you're caring about winning right now, I don't know why you wouldn't have put your pride and ego aside for a little bit and waited. Because Nelson Aguilar has been dealing with a concussion in recent weeks. Rashad Bateman has been limited. due to injury. And if you just waited, if you just had a little bit of patience, maybe, just maybe, you could have proven yourself and shown this team that you're worthy of wide receiver 2 role. This will probably be the last time we talk about this, but it was something that was mentioned earlier today and came onto my timeline courtesy of Aaron Wilson and the other Houston Texan reporters down there in Texas. Well, Charlie Kohler's 3-week window for return after breaking his forearm. By the way, Derrick Henry broke his forearm just out of sheer explosiveness on a run in game earlier this season. But the Ravens have designated their tight end Charlie Kohler to return from IR. He has returned to practice, so good to see number 88 out there. He'd certainly be a starter, probably in a double-digit amount of other teams around this league. That's just how talented and deep the Ravens tight end room goes. But Charlie does a lot of dirty work that is thankless. But if you watch the tape, boy, it's anything but. He is an impact player for them. He is a contributor. And it's somebody that is obviously big for the Ravens' run game, big for the Ravens' physicality. It sure looks like he's going to have an opportunity based on what John Harbaugh mentioned earlier this evening to play and be available for this Week 18 game against the Cleveland Browns. And, of course, it could be a division-clinching game as well. It's a 4:30 kickoff on Saturday, January 4th. Mark your calendars accordingly. It's inside the bank. You look at the full slate for Week 18 right here. I'll be out at the Be More Around Town tailgate getting after it. Would love for you guys to come out, hang with me. I'll be start my show in the 2 o'clock hour. BeMoreAroundTown.com is where you can get your tickets. Look forward to that opportunity and look forward to hopefully having another home game, of course, the second week in January for Wild Card Weekend for the first time in a few years. That certainly looks like where we are headed right now. I appreciate you guys for hanging out tonight. Not quite an hour's worth of content, but just haven't been opening up the guest lines of late just because I'm trying to get as much time with family in as possible. When I get back down to Baltimore, we'll get back into the swing of things. But that's where we're at. A special thank you to Preston Automotive Group for the continued support that they're giving me. Go check out them and what they have to offer to you by clicking on the link that's included in the show notes. It's also a pinned comment as well. I appreciate you guys as always. If you're interested in donating to the channel, you can do so through Venmo or Cash App. Free ways to help out the channel, of course, liking the video, subscribing if you haven't already, hitting that notification bell so you can be notified of when I'm dropping my daily live content. And I will catch up with you, not tomorrow. I'm going to be in Syracuse for New Year's Eve. Should be a fun time. Stay tuned for some updates. But on Wednesday, Sarah will be live at 12 noon Eastern tomorrow for a Tuesday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. And, of course, I'll be back on Wednesday, New Year's Day. Have a safe, happy, healthy, fun New Year's Eve. It's my brother's birthday. It's Sarah's birthday today. My brother turns 22 tomorrow, so we're going to celebrate a little bit tonight. And I appreciate you guys for hanging out. So I will catch up with you soon. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy the new year. Enjoy Sarah solo tomorrow. And I'll catch up with you soon. Thanks, guys, for stopping by. Catch up soon.